Well, welcome back to the Global Stewardship Podcast. I hope you are all having a wonderful holiday season, cherishing time with loved ones. If you're new here, I am a traveling farmer, and this is a podcast where I'm able to continue sharing about my passion for agriculture and other cultures without actually having to physically travel around the world. We explore conversations about farming and the food system, how to regenerate the earth, specifically how people around the globe grow food and support their communities without harming the planet and people. And we have amazing guests on the show every week, from farmers to fishermen to today, I'm interviewing a guy named Robin Greenfield. Have you heard about Robin Greenfield? I'm sure you have, even if you don't recognize his name. I'm stoked to be part of sharing his story today. It's a short episode, but give me a second to tell you some of the things that he's done, and it may ring a bell. The one that I had recognized was that he's the guy who wore the transparent trash suit in New York City for a month. He physically wore his trash in this suit to spark conversations about overconsumption and waste. We have so much trash. The amount of packaging when I go into an American supermarket and look at the amount of just crazy packaging, everything in plastic, compared to other countries I visit around the world. Many places have no packaging in the supermarkets or at markets. And so I loved the idea that Robin did this to promote zero waste. He's done many stints, some living totally off grid. Sometimes there have been other times where he's just lived off of people's generosity, but he lives in an extreme way so that we maybe just will be inspired to implement a simple change in our own life. There was even one point where he noted that almost 70% of his food came from supermarket dumpsters, highlighting the issue of food waste in our country. So this might start giving you an idea of why Robin is on the show today. I encourage you to listen all the way to the end. Like I said, it's one of the shorter episodes that I've done. Please always continue to send guests my way. Any guest recommendations of someone you know who's farming or doing something around the world in the food system, I would love to hear from them, even if it's you and you are passionate about regenerative agriculture or food sovereignty. A lot of listeners of this show are farmers, food producers, gardeners, what have you, so I know you're listening and I know that you know people who are working in this realm. It can be easy for us to think that our story or our friend's story isn't unique enough or that it's been said before, but I would just like to share that I felt the same way, and yet every week people come to me saying that they've never heard these things before. And so just because maybe your life, the way you live, or the things that you're passionate about seem mainstream to you, they might be things that you live by every day or that you preach on a regular basis, but that's not the case for everyone out there. And so all of that to say, every story is important and I would be happy to help share it. So please feel free to send recommendations my way. And with that, here is Robin Greenfield. I only have recently learned about your name and who you are, but there's definitely some of the social experiments and things that you've done that I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize that. I knew that somebody did that. And even just today talking with my farm team, we're talking about, oh, people were saying, yeah, like I've heard about someone doing that, but they may have heard about you doing it, but they haven't heard from you yet necessarily. And so just even talking with them this morning, the first question that came up was, is this realistic? Like, can other people implement some of these things in their life? All of the things that you have implemented in yours, is it all just crazy? And for the people who do think that it's just crazy and unrealistic, can you give them a glimpse into what has made the life changes worth it for you?
Yeah. So it's absolutely realistic. Now, I go to extreme measures. Right now I'm foraging 100% of my food and medicine down to the salt, oil, and spices. I've done my year of growing and foraging all my food. I've embarked on a lot of, pretty dedicated adventures. But everybody doesn't have to do what I'm doing. I've never said that. That's never been the point. What's realistic is that food and medicine is growing freely and abundantly all around us, and that we can learn about these plants and we can forage these. We can start with the weeds that are growing right in our front yards, our gardens, our farms, and eat some of the most nutritious and delicious foods. And that's accessible to hundreds of millions of US Americans and billions of people around the world. And growing food is so accessible and so reachable. Growing all of your food, not for most people, but most of us can grow some of our food, even if we don't have land. That can involve joining a community garden or volunteering at a farm. So what I do again is extreme, but dear friends, don't get lost in that and think that that means you can't do something. We have to ask ourselves, what do we want to do? How do we want to live our lives, and how can we make our actions in alignment with our beliefs? That's my job, is to help people to think critically, ask questions, and move down the path of living in a more harmonious way with Earth, with humanity, and with the plants and animals we share this home with.
Very powerful. I appreciate the clarification. I definitely think there are many of us who are kind of leading the way in different movements, and it can seem like the way that we're coming on is like, this is the way, and that's not the point. The point is just to get people thinking more critically and about these nuanced issues and conversations.
Absolutely. One action at a time, taking our lives back. If we've never grown food before, starting a little garden. If we've never foraged before, starting with the easy plants. If we're looking to, reduce our waste, one step at a time, looking at all the ways in which our garbage cans are filling up with trash. And that means starting to compost. It means starting to grow some food. It means, shopping at a food co-op where you have access to the bulk section. So I think that a lot of people who get focused on the aspect of like trying to do everything, that shows the problem with our society, that a lot of us are kind of trapped because this consumer driven society really tries to get us disempowered and disconnected. And so
Mhm.
when we're feeling that way, I think it's honestly kind of a showing of the capitalist consumerist society is winning in our own minds, when we don't see like, oh, I'm just going to do what I can do and be of service to my
Right.
community.
Yeah, that is so true. I did want to ask, I know you've probably seen a lot being out in public spaces, putting yourself out there in front of people to give opinions. I wanted to ask if there have been any conversations that have stood out to you over time, or if you've kind of had any like really shocking responses that have stuck with you while you've been sharing your heart with others in that space.
Well, the reason that I continue doing what I'm doing is because I speak to thousands of people that tell me that they have had a revolution in their mind, that they're questioning our unquestioned societal norms and structures, that they are, expanding their relationship with the earth and the plants and animals. And so I talk to people, hundreds of times per year, that some, it's just they've made small changes, little things that they've adopted into their life, and then others, it's they quit their corporate job and they, moved on to a farm or into a community, or they started a nonprofit, or they learned how to break free from the monetary system and live in a much more sustainable way. So I hear from literally thousands of people who are transforming their lives, and I'm part of the inspiration. I'm just one element of the inspiration and knowledge of the, millions of people that are living in service to the earth and showing that another way is possible. Last I'll say on that is, I started my activism almost 15 years ago, and I have just seen the blossoming of so many human beings in that time. We live in a powerful
Yeah,
time. We live in a very powerful time.
I definitely agree. We on our farm, we're wolf hosts, if you're familiar with the
Yeah,
wolf program.
absolutely.
Um, Everybody who comes through here and stays and lives on our farm have had an awakening of some sort at some point about food and consumerism, and it's always a different story. Like always inspired by something different, and it shows me that things are working in all different areas of life, every different state, different country. So it's really cool. It's powerful to hear. Just everybody's stories are beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I have been reading about you, I have read about, you being very hyper minimalist,
Hmm.
and was kind of wondering, not even just the minimalism, but you seem to have left behind this individualism that a lot of our modern day societies are just so centered around the self.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what has been the highlight for you of leaving behind that radical individualism as much as you can.
Yeah.
Do you have a highlight that stands out?
I would say honestly, it's the deepening of my love for everything. I mean, I grew up in the dominator society where it was a matter of comparison, a matter of like who has more, who's better. And so it was often, it wasn't like trying to uplift others. It was like you would be better if they were worse. So there was this constant bringing
Mhm.
down of other people. And now I practice universal love, which sounds cliche to some people, but universal love is simple. It's just to love everything. It's possible, it's accessible. And so for me, in this practice of, letting go and shedding a lot of the former forms of communication and thinking, it is that. And I feel that inside of myself. I, of course, still have negative thoughts and I still get annoyed or anxious, absolutely. But to a large degree, I just exist in a state of love for the trees and the plants, love for the food growing in the garden or the food growing wildly and abundantly, love for all the animals, whether it's the beautiful, cute little birds and squirrels, or it's the squirrels eating my peanuts, in my year of growing and foraging all my food, still loving them
Funny.
and
Yeah.
loving humanity, no matter how much damage an individual is doing, knowing that they're a human being who is struggling in these difficult times. So yeah, I would say deepening into that state of universal love, and a lot of that has come through foraging, through growing food, and through breaking free from individualism and ownership, and coming into a much more communal way of existence.
I've had a similar experience. Really, it all started when I started growing food. So many people were telling me I had to farm a certain way, I had to do certain things to keep the pests out, to keep the animals away. And something about it just didn't really sit right. And I think that I just was kind of feeling like, no, like I want to welcome it all. Like I believe that this is God's creation. And I think it's why it's led me down this road to talking about food system reform and just focusing so much on food sovereignty because I did have so many farmers at the beginning thinking I was insane, really.
Mm,
To have a no spray farm for many people is
yeah,
a totally foreign concept. And it's like totally, you know, some people would say it's a dangerous idea.
yeah.
It's like a danger to our food system to promote these thoughts.
It is a danger. It's a danger to the status quo. It's a danger to a society that wants to keep a form of domination. And so it is accurate that it's a danger, but it's not a danger to the welfare of our global humanity and to the benefit of the plants and animals that we share this home with. And I'm so
Right.
glad that you're helping to spread the word of this, that we can grow food without dumping toxic chemicals on it and into the soil.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's honestly what originally I said. I need to interview you because you're on a homeward tour back in Wisconsin, right? Is it all in Wisconsin?
Right now, I'm on, yes, the Homeland Speaking Tour in Wisconsin and Minnesota. But
Mhm.
I will be, for this whole year of foraging all of my food and medicine, I'll be on tour in Florida this winter, as well as some of the southern United States, probably the West Coast in spring, early summer, and then again the East Coast next summer and fall.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
lots of opportunities for people to come out and get involved. Every event I do is always about bringing community together, meeting more like-minded people, but also learning a lot.
Yeah, I think my woofer, whoever the woofers are here at the time, would love to come to one. So that would be really fun. I
Wonderful.
I just thought it was really cool because the Midwest has such a big spot in my heart. When I first started touring farms and sharing about the food system, Wisconsin was like the first place I went.
Mm.
And there's a lot of industrial ag in Wisconsin and a lot of people that don't realize that there's another way to do it necessarily. And so I thought it was so cool that you're starting off at home and sharing some of your experiences with them. I kind of wondered like what have the people from your past growing up, what do they think about what you're doing now? Are they super stoked about it? Do they also think this is a little crazy?
Yeah, well, a lot of people think I'm a little crazy or a lot more than a little crazy, and including some of the close people in my life. And the way that I look at it is to affect serious change in society. I'm talking about serious change. The only way is that millions of people are going to think you're crazy, because the reality is the US American lifestyle, although it is sold to us as normal, in
Hmm.
fact is extreme. In the United States, we have 5% of the world's population, but we consume 25% of the world's resources. That, by definition, is extreme. And so, by going to the other end of the extreme of just trying to live in harmony with the earth, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be shaken up by that. And for some people, they're going to get defensive and they're going to feel, angry inside, or they're going to feel hurt, what have you. Last night, I gave a talk in Madison, Wisconsin, and one of my childhood friends, Craig, was there. And it was such a joy to have him in the audience. And as I'm sharing my story, be able to see him and relate to our early development stages before we knew about any of this. And so this summer, actually, I saw a childhood friend who works at Enbridge, which is a pipeline company, which is basically like my arch nemesis, the pipeline companies. And
Right.
we went out fishing together, hadn't seen each other for 15 years, and it was a beautiful connection. But yes, absolutely, he thinks that I'm crazy in many ways, but I don't spend my time judging or putting other people down. Um, I just don't. And so because of that, I'm able to, cross the bridges and, speak to
Hmm.
people where they're at. And it helps
Yes.
that I'm from northern Wisconsin. I'm a small town guy originally, and so I still have that in me.
Yeah. Well, I think you're so right that that's really what's crucial if there's ever going to be any change. You can't just be angry towards people who might not understand or disagree. You have to
Yeah.
have that
Yep.
respect. What would you say? Because I know from experience, but I know that the people listening right now face opinions head on all the time, like I'm sure you do also. Maybe from family, just a lot of pushback, maybe some hatred because of their beliefs or their more minimal, holistic, regenerative, whatever the word is, lifestyles.
Yep.
How do you recommend for somebody who's trying to navigate handling those negative opinions with grace? What is something that's worked for you?
Yeah. Okay, a couple of things. One, remember that every human being at every given moment is doing the best that they can to meet their basic needs. So that removes judgment. It's always just thinking, what are they trying to meet? Are they looking for belonging, for love, for acknowledgement, acceptance, success, meaning, purpose? So always that, and that removes that judgment. Also, the practice of non-attachment, not being attached to changing anybody's minds, not being attached to changing our families or the people close to us, and not even being attached so much to individual relationships. The way that I look at it is there's 8 billion people on this earth. That's a potential of 8 billion different friends.
Mhm.
Family. Yes, we have our blood family, but we have a family of millions of species of plants and animals and of billions of people. And so embracing our global family, embracing that community isn't just humans, it's the plants and animals. And another one would be really doing the work to love ourselves, to find that wholeness and completeness within. Because when we really consider ourselves whole and complete, what other people think about us is not going to matter as much. It's not going to bring us down. And then the last thing I'll say is, letting go of the concern of what people think so much. Trying to remove that from your constant lens of what are people going to think, and instead what I flipped it to was when I wanted to do something, I would ask, is this action beneficial to the earth, my community, and myself? And I would just ask that question instead of what are people going to think. I would reframe that. And so it takes real intention, and those are some of the
Yeah,
things that come to mind.
definitely. That last one is really important because when you think about it in a lens of, and I like this because I've heard you say this before, just the lens of how is what you're doing every day affecting everything else. A lot of people don't always think about that because we have been trained to think about the self in
Yeah.
so many cases. I think that is such a good starting point to go from. And it doesn't matter what other people think, totally goes out the window when you realize, well, what they think is going to push me to harm, like harming things,
Yeah.
or if I was trying to please everybody else all the
Yep.
time. I think that's really
Yes, it's
important.
our minds that we had, the most fertile grounds that we need to nourish are our own minds. Bob Marley said, "None can free our minds but ourselves." And
Yeah.
absolutely, so a lot of work to do. Two of my practices are compassionate communication or nonviolent communication. That's a really, really incredible resource that I work with. And then also Vipassana meditation. It's a 10-day mindfulness 10 days silent retreat. And wow, does that help in letting go and helping us to become who we truly want to be. So those aren't gardening or foraging directly, but wow, they totally
Yeah.
interweave because we must free our own minds if we're ever going to be able to live in liberation with this earth.
Yeah. I'm a Christian and we have the parable of the sower, the fertility of the mind. It's the same like with the heart. You want to not have a hard heart. And I think that that's super powerful. Like it's the same concept of if you're sowing seeds on hard soil, like nothing is going to be able to penetrate.
Mm,
Nothing's going to be able to penetrate the hardened mind or the hardened heart
yeah.
and to work on that fertility. And a lot of times it's just the slowness and yeah, humbling yourself to that point of being able to have a soft heart is
Yeah.
really
It's
super
difficult.
important.
Our society has really hardened our hearts, and so it takes some courage to soften the hearts because there's risks in it, but the reward for most of us is can be well worth it.
That is definitely one of the most courageous and brave things to do. Definitely. This morning, I was talking to someone on my team about you foraging for a year, and they were like, wow, man, he's got to have a lot of faith, like that he can find all of that stuff. And I'm wondering what has been your experience so far? What has foraging, I know you're not very far into it, but you have
Yeah,
done it for several months.
yeah.
How is it looking so far?
Yeah, well, you definitely can say faith. This is actually my year of foraging. It is about putting into practice my belief that the earth can provide us with everything that we need. I know that theoretically, but I want to feel it deep inside of every ounce of my cellular being that the earth can provide us with everything we need. Like many humans have experienced and lived for thousands of years, but not too many humans on Earth today are really able
Today?
to feel that because our global industrial food system has penetrated almost every corner of this Earth,
Hmm.
taken over people's, really deep connection. And so for me, that's what this year is about deepening my connection and really feeling at home on this Earth. So I'm 2 months in, and what I can say is that on most days, I do not really remember that I'm foraging all of my food and medicine, which to me is a sign that things are flowing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not having concerns. I'm well nourished. I have the food that I need. I'm in good health. I've lost somewhere around like 6, 7 pounds since I started. But that's to be expected when you give up the Ben and Jerry's ice cream and the
For sure.
the cinnamon buns from the local baking company.
Yeah.
And I think that I've leveled off in that regard. So that's to be expected at the beginning. And but the other part, we use the word faith here, but the other end of that is skill. The only
Hmm.
reason this, if I was to have gone into this with solely faith, I'd be in trouble. I've
Definitely.
I've gotten the reason that I can have faith is because I have skill and I have knowledge.
Yeah.
And so with that, I know, hundreds of different plants that I can forage. I know the medicines that I need to the preventative health care to take care of myself. I know how to harvest and process and store these foods. I know how to have a complete diet. And so this is a long journey in the making that has gotten me here to be able to do this.
Hmm. Sure, that feels really incredible, almost freeing, knowing, starting to experience it and knowing it's actually possible for you.
Yes, and at the same time, I am living my life, and my life, although is incredibly extreme to the average person, is so deeply normalized for myself. And so most days I don't remember that I'm doing anything unique
Yeah,
at all.
right.
I know when I really think about it, yeah, it's unique to break free from the grocery store and the restaurants, and it's unique to be able to walk outside and meet my needs without money, without
Hmm.
the monetary system. And so it is, but what I'll say is that I do live a life of incredible freedom, because I've let go of so many of my attachments and so many of my, vices, and I've really embraced the abundance of what's available around me rather than trying to seek this never-ending quest for more material goods. Instead, I take so much joy in bird feathers and rocks and pine
Yeah.
cones and hugging trees, they're never going to charge us to hug them.
Right. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. We grow our own food, and many times I'll go days and days without even thinking about it being a radical act,
Yeah.
or it's just so normal to us to just walk outside and pick our food. Or it's crazy when people come here and their eyes are totally open to a whole new way of life. I forget that this is different. It's your life. It's just normal to you. Yeah.
Yep. And I deeply encourage everybody who's out there growing food to keep growing food, everybody who's foraging, everyone who's practicing herbal medicine. Do it, live it, and then also, to the best of your ability, live it out loud, show other people. But if you're quiet and you're shy, just keep doing what you're doing as well. It's beautiful and it's powerful just to live this by example, even if nobody sees us doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody has a different view of the food system, just with our own lived experiences. What would be your food system ideal? Like, how do
Mm.
you view the food system currently?
Okay, well, I'll share one thing, and that is that in my book, Food Freedom, about my year of growing and foraging all my food, the ending is my view of like the ideal food system, kind of in detail on a more philosophical level. Um, and so I invite people to read that. It's available an experiment in the gift economy. So you can go to the website and you can order it, even for $0. We'll send it to you. So money is no barrier, and it's a really wonderful. It's a critique of our global industrial food system. It's the story of my year of growing and foraging all my food, and it's an empowerment manual for liberation through food. So it's got so many resources to get you started. My food system would be one in which is largely localized, where we're meeting our needs within our bioregions, where when we are harvesting food, we are, to the best of our ability, doing no unnecessary harm to the earth. Currently, because of the way the world is, it's going to involve a lot of regeneration. It's actually going to involve carbon sequestration and the building of our soils, the topsoil that we've lost. It's going to involve hundreds of species of plants and animals, interconnected, many of which we're harvesting, but many of which are just living there and adding value, and that our places are a refuge for other plants and animals. There would be no word weed because we would see that every plant has
Hmm.
its value. There wouldn't even be the word invasive. And we would definitely be eating these plants instead of spraying them with chemicals. We would find ways to work with them as food and medicine. And it would be one in which, of course, we would want all humans to have access to nourishing and nutritious and delicious food. So I could certainly go on. It's going to be different in every bioregion. There is no
Hmm.
global norm that would work. It's going to be different in every bioregion. And
Yeah,
it's going to involve community effort, people harvesting together, processing together, eating together, intergenerationally, from little kids all the way up to adults. And uh, yeah, that's a little bit of an idea.
amazing. I had read about your 1 million community fruit tree initiative,
Yes.
and I guess that also, the fruit trees and everything would depend on the climate in the region as well. But are there any other things that you have an immediate passion for that you think the person listening could implement tomorrow? What would
Sure.
you recommend for somebody?
Well, when I started to transform my life, what I did is one step at a time. I made positive changes, and I made over 100 changes in 2 years. And I actually list those 100 changes on my website. So you can go right to robingreenfield.org/100, and you can pick the changes that you're excited about and make a list of changes, and maybe
Hmm.
commit to making one a week or one a month. and just transforming your life to bring your actions in alignment with your beliefs. As far as
Yeah.
community fruit trees, yes, so this is a grassroots collaborative effort to plant 1 million fruit and nut trees over the next decade. And we're doing this through a micro nursery system, which is basically a 4x8 raised air pruning bed, and these can be made for just a couple $100s, and then the seeds and the cuttings can be harvested. And so in this small bed you can produce about 1,000 trees that then can be distributed amongst the community to grow. And so we're looking for stewards who want to have these nurseries. We'll cover the cost of creating these small nurseries, and then the trees will be distributed amongst the community, some locally, some can be mailed. The trees only need 1 year, and then we plant them as bare root trees. And we're looking for people who want to plant large quantities of trees. And so if this is exciting to anyone
Mhm.
listening, you can go to robingreenfield.org/community fruit trees. And there's a form that you can fill out to get involved.
I filled it out. I'm excited.
Oh,
Hopefully we'll
wonderful.
hopefully we'll hear back. Yeah, it'll be interesting because we live very close to a city and they're very strict about planting anything that is not male. Like, we have so much pollen here because they only plant the male trees of non-native, beautifully flowered things that just aren't food.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting, but I'm ready for the challenge and I know that people listening will be as well. So I think it's awesome.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, last question for you. I really appreciate you coming on here and I'm so fascinated by just everything you're doing. Also, you have a fantastic website, so I do recommend that people go check it out. Very inspirational reading about everything you've done. Of all of these things you've implemented, I'm sure this journey has not been picture perfect or easy. I can't imagine any of it being super simple. It's a radical change, and many of us have experienced that humbling of going from the consumerist society self to this person awakened a bit. To help us just relate to you and kind of have it more personally connect with us, could you share maybe a story of one time throughout this journey that you felt like you failed or like it was just really something was super daunting about the prospect of this whole thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I question myself all the time. I question if what I'm doing is truly of service. And, often when I'm at home processing large quantities of food and staying up late, like canning my foods, I think to myself, is this really of service to the world to be at home canning my food? I could be out, working at a food bank and helping to get food to people who are food insecure.
Mm,
But then I remember the work of Robin Wall Kimmerer, braiding sweetgrass, and I really remember she teaches so wonderfully how powerful it is and an act of resistance to, uh, you know, to just uh, to just be focused on living in reciprocity, to be having relationships with the plants, and also just to be living simply. Like it's all very, very powerful, meaningful work. And so, yeah, I mean, one of my biggest struggles is working with people. I have a lot of conflicts in like, communication. It's very challenging, and my team is often not flowing well because of my communication, which can be kind of like sharp, or I'm just really driven and
mm,
and dedicated. And so yeah, my life has definitely got plenty of struggles and plenty of challenges, but I celebrate every day the successes. And I remember where I was and where I am, and I remember just the fact that that here I am on this journey. It's something to be celebrating, and I celebrate every person out there who's on this journey with us.
thank you so much. That was perfectly said. So,
Good.
yeah, awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Just that I love you. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to follow your journey and hopefully bring my team to meet you and hear from you.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was a joy to have this conversation, and keep up your wonderful work.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Hey, before you go, I got to be a part of an exciting launch of something called United by Nature. If you've ever heard of the organization Nature is Nonpartisan, it is kind of an offshoot of their organization, and it's an exciting cultural revolution to get people excited about environmentalism without the political affiliations, just people who are passionate about getting outdoors. And so I have linked their new website in the podcast description. I would love it if you would check it out and just sign your name. Sign your name as somebody who is enthusiastic about caring for the land. And there's going to be lots of exciting opportunities across the U.S., but then just a cool way to hear stories of amazing land stewards. So please click that link, check it out, and remember to send your podcast guest recommendations my way. Thanks.